Now, Russia and Ukraine have launched air attacks that damaged each other's infrastructure just hours after President Putin said Russia would stop targeting Ukrainian energy sites. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said the Russian leader had in effect rejected a comprehensive ceasefire in his telephone call on Tuesday with Donald Trump. Moscow has accused Kyiv of trying to disrupt U.S. peace initiatives, saying a Ukrainian drone attack caused a fire at an oil depot in Krasnodar in southern Russia. Earlier, President Putin told the American leader that a full ceasefire would only work if Ukraine's allies stopped giving Kyiv military assistance. Speaking to the Fox News channel's The Ingram Angle, Mr. Trump seemed pleased with his talks. Well, for his assessment, I'm joined now on the line from London by the international affairs analyst, Dr. Marek Laskiewicz. Good to see you, Dr. Laskiewicz. Why do you reckon Russia carried out these attacks after saying it wouldn't hit energy targets in Ukraine?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. They targeted the infrastructure. We have to see, I think, over the next few days what's going to happen, because it is not clear quite what their goal is. What is clear is they scored a major diplomatic victory in the talks with President Trump. So it is unclear why they should suddenly want to in any way damage this.
Well, Russia has said that any ceasefire was still only one in principle. Therefore, there was no breach and other conditions still needed to be met. So what's your assessment of that?
Well, it's their loophole that they're using. As I said, we have to see what's going to happen in the next few days. As it stands, sure, there is such a loophole. There's nothing signed. There's no formal agreement of any sort. But if President Putin has said he's going to stop, and now it hasn't stopped on the basis that it's still not signed and sealed, it's not very good, is it? You have the impression, therefore, that until you trap him in a room and make him sign, Russia will carry on. I think the real reason is actually quite different, that President Putin is still trying to win the war. He doesn't believe in a ceasefire, and this sort of attack is simply, if you like, part of the ongoing onslaught, and therefore in that respect, until he is indeed trapped in a room and forced to sign, Russia will carry on simply striking at targets in Ukraine.
And in terms of the reading of that phone call between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, the Russians seem quite pleased with the fact that they made no major concessions, but still managed to keep good relations with Donald Trump.
That is indeed exactly the analysis. I would go further. They've got quiet talks, which are carrying on improving their relations and are looking at all aspects of the Russian-American relationship. They're going very nicely ahead. This conversation was, if you like, the icing on the cake, which shows that Donald Trump is indeed serious about a meeting with Putin and is indeed serious about working with Russia. There is a further aspect to these talks that Russia is quite clearly thinking in terms of business deals with Donald Trump, which is something he likes, because they have a great deal of resources which he wants, and they're quite willing to work with him, which he likes, and they're quite willing, I think, probably giving him quite reasonable terms in business. So therefore, there is an awful lot of mileage for him. The only problem, it's a kind of niggling issue for him, doubtless, is Ukraine, what to do about that. But it's quite clear from the Russians' point of view, yes, it was a very successful phone call.
There's also some suggestion that's coming through the wires that Vladimir Putin kept Donald Trump waiting for an hour before making that call. I mean, what are you hearing about that?
It's very hard to tell. We're simply not privy to the information, and there's so much misinformation, disinformation, genuine error on top of everything else that until it was confirmed by both sides, which is unlikely to be the case, we can simply put it down to just one more interesting aspect. You could argue, and I certainly would not reject this out of hand, that of course by keeping somebody waiting, you are showing who has the whip hand in this. And if that were true, then indeed President Putin scored a minor victory here. On the other hand, it's very hard to see why he would do that, because why should he succeed? Why would he want to irritate President Donald Trump, who's going out of his way to be pleasant to him? So I will keep this story. I think it should be noted, but certainly we can't go any further than what I've said just now.
Right, indeed. Very briefly, because we're out of time, no clarity on the ceasefire, but apparently a big exchange of prisoners of war between Russia and Ukraine today and in the coming days.
Yes, I think that's part of these sort of minor concessions, which really don't hurt Russia to do, but give Donald Trump the impression that they're moving towards peace, and therefore, from their point of view, the Russians' point of view, that is simply one more little, if you like, sweetie that they can give to President Donald Trump, along with saying they're not going to attack energy plants and they're going to carry on talking. So therefore, it is good news from that point of view. I wouldn't read too much into it. We are certainly well distanced from any real peace treaty.
Dr. Laskiewicz, thank you as always. Dr. Marek Laskiewicz is the International Affairs Analyst. He was talking to me on the line from London.